Hey everyone, welcome to Area 616. All 13 episodes of Season 2 of Marvel's Runaways have officially premiered on Hulu just over a year after the first season's release. I was personally pretty excited about the season, but not as much as I would be for, say, Daredevil or Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Looking back, the first season of Runaways was, in my opinion, entertaining enough. It had some good moments to it with Old Lace and the kids, but it was weighed down by a colossally slow pace and a kind of boring story overall. And the lackluster ending to the season didn't help. But I love the characters and their comics, and Season 2 definitely had the ability to improve on Season 1. The kids are now finally actually running away, and now the story with Jonah is in full swing. With the first trailers and posters for Season 2, everything looked a lot better. And having seen it, I can say I wasn't too disappointed by anything. This review will be in two parts, the spoiler-free review section, and then the spoilers discussion at the end. If you've already seen all of Season 2 and want to skip straight to the spoilers discussion, here's the time code for that. Season 2 of Runaways improves on the first in almost every respect. It's got a better pace, better writing, more action, and most importantly, more fun. I really love the Runaways in the comics, and one of my favorite things about them is that despite everything, the comic has a pretty light and fun tone. The first season didn't have much of that. It was really weighed down by teen angst and adult drama. And Season 2 certainly has plenty of that to go around, but it feels much more balanced in this season. It never really intrudes on the fun. This season was just simply more enjoyable to watch than the first. Once I started, I didn't want to stop. The main Runaways cast are all great, although some shine more than others. Chase, Carolina, and Nico are real standouts of this season in my opinion, although the rest are really great too. They all do a great job of bringing their characters to life in their own ways. The parents are all really good too. One of the biggest complaints for Season 1 was that the parents kind of took away the spotlight a bit too much. Their drama ate into the kids just because they ultimately had more interesting stuff to do. The kids basically spent all of Season 1 waiting on a computer to do something, if I remember correctly. This is fixed and then some in Season 2. The parents still have plenty of stuff to do, but the focus is squarely on the Runaways themselves, as it should be. Jonah is a pretty good villain. Not necessarily one of the more memorable of the MCU, but he is still a great antagonist for the team, and they did some pretty interesting stuff with him. This show still isn't perfect. The action isn't very good. It relies a lot on slow motion, and half the time you can't really tell what's happening. Action is hardly this show's main focus, though, so that's not really a huge deal. I think this season could have benefited from being a couple of episodes shorter, which is something I say a lot in regards to Marvel shows. There were a few times it was clear that it was really padding its runtime. And, why is it always got to be either 8, 10, or 13? Why not 11 or 12? Or even 9? Just do whatever the story at hand requires. Sometimes some conflicts feel a bit forced and melodramatic. But this was made by the people who wrote Gossip Girl and The OC, so that's kind of to be expected to a degree. It's never really annoying, though. Most everything is pretty well written. This show reminds me a lot of how I felt about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. The first season wasn't too great. It relied too much on network TV tropes and was always picking up after the movies. But in the second season, the show kind of started to work things out. They introduced Quake and the Inhumans and started to work out a unique tone and mythos. Then, by Season 3, they were on a roll. Season 4 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is one of Marvel TV's best seasons to date. It's just awesome, all the way through. And that's what I see here with Runaways. I think each season it'll grow more comfortable with the story and characters, and it'll get better and better each time. But this is still a great show in its own respect, and it's worth your time whether you're a fan of the comics or not. I personally enjoyed it, and I think you guys will too. But with that said, we're now entering the spoilers discussion. Lots of stuff to talk about here. I'd like to talk about some of the developments for the characters that came from Season 2, and where I could see the series going in Season 3 and beyond. I do think it'll get renewed for Season 3. I don't know how popular it is or isn't, but I think Hulu will keep it going. So, by the end of Season 2, a lot of crazy stuff is happening. The Runaways have been practically cut in half. Chase has left to return to his family, which doesn't end well for him. Carolina ends up being taken by Chase's father, who's actually possessed by Jonah. Gert and Old Lace are being taken on the run by her father, who's running from her now psycho mother. The only ones left at the hostel are Alex, Molly, Nico, pregnant Leslie Dean, and Zavin. Now Jonah and the other Gaborim are looking to rebuild their ship and take Leslie's child back to their homeworld. So it looks like for Season 3 the stakes will be much more personal and less all of California could be destroyed. So let's talk about Zavin for a bit. I was genuinely surprised we got her here. I just sort of assumed she wouldn't be in Season 2 just simply because in the comics she's a Skrull. And sure, Skrulls are showing up in Captain Marvel soon, but I just figured that they wouldn't be allowed to use them on Runaways first. As far as we can tell, Zavin isn't a Skrull in the show. According to MCU Wikia, which means she must have said it at some point, I don't remember, she's a Zartan. Looking to the comics, Zartans do exist, but they're deviants. Deviants are, of course, the genetic offshoots of Eternals. Considering we're getting an Eternals movie soon, that's pretty interesting. They can actually shapeshift in the comics too, which is really cool, and confirms this is what she actually is. I'm okay with Zavin not being a Skrull as long as the soul of the character is intact. I'm cool with it. They make a lot of changes like that throughout Season 2. For example, Topher isn't a vampire, he's a superpower junkie. But I don't mind these changes because they're still true to the characters at their core. Topher still betrays the Runaways in some way. They even made Topher far more interesting with a nice backstory that helps to grow characters, like Molly and Gert around him. Honestly, introducing vampires would distract from the main plot at hand. They're kind of a lot to take in. The series seems to be focused around the Gaborim, aka Jonah, who are now stand-ins for the Magistanians, I think. I'll admit I'm a little confused on whether or not they're separate beings. I don't think they are, but I'm not sure. This series remains pretty cut off from the rest of the MCU, thanks to its California setting, but it has started to introduce some pretty interesting connections. And there are cool Easter eggs throughout. For example, Alex mentions Wakanda at one point. It was pretty fun, and it also helps us to figure out when this series is set. After T'Challa opens Wakanda to the world, but before the events of Avengers Infinity War, which is pretty obvious. So, probably in late 2017, early 2018. However, at one point, there is a bit of a plot hole. Some of the characters are talking about Jonah's ship they saw coming out of the hole, and one of them says something along the lines of, "So there really is life out there." But, I mean, at this point, that's kind of common knowledge in the MCU, right? Like, everyone saw what happened in the Battle of New York. Everyone knows Thor isn't human. So, yeah, it doesn't quite add up, but it's only a small little detail. Of course, there's Nico's dark magic connections, which look a lot like Caecilius and his zealots in Doctor Strange. This implies a connection to Dormammu and the Dark Dimension. I'm excited to see where this goes, but a little disappointed in how it was in this season. It's barely in there. With how prominently it's featured in the marketing, you'd think the whole latter half would revolve around it. But it's not really explored, it just pops up every now and then. Now when it's there, it's really awesome. But it's not there much. I am glad they're embracing the staff of one's magic connections though. They've kept the only one spell rule, which I liked. And Tina seems to recognize what's going on with Nico. I don't think it makes sense for her to have been at the Sanctum in Doctor Strange, like she is in the deleted scenes. It just doesn't quite add up. But what I'm thinking is maybe that's her sister. I don't know, Nina. Maybe both were raised and trained in Kamar-Taj, but Tina rejected it to live a normal life. Nina stayed behind and ended up being killed in the battle with the Zealots, so the sorcerers gave her Staff of One over to Tina for safekeeping. Season 3 will obviously focus on the Gaborim family trying to leave Earth, but I think it could also see dark magic playing a large role. They've been slowly introducing ideas to keep their series going throughout. Like, I'm pretty sure Chase's time travel TV thing isn't for nothing. They show it here again. I think time travel is definitely going to play some kind of role in the show moving forward, maybe towards the end of Season 3. Also, I noticed that Chase was designing the leapfrog in one of the scenes in the later episodes. I don't know if they'd have the kind of budget necessary to have that in the show, but it would be really awesome to see. A lot of people were wondering who the mole would end up being. It was Alex in the comics, but it turns out there wasn't really one. None of them ratted to the Pride, but they all had their own mini betrayal. Alex's plan with AWOL, Chase leaving the group, Gert calling Janet to get her meds, Carolina meeting with Jonah and then Nico killing him. Molly's the only one I can think of off the top of my head that didn't really do anything like that, but I could have just forgotten. I like this change. I think it's much more realistic and complex that way. The comics are fun, but they're very simplistic in how the parents are just evil bad guys, and Alex just turns evil at one point. Not to diss the comics, they're great. It's just different mediums. That wouldn't really work on TV like it does in the comics. But in any event, what did you guys think? Did you like Runaways Season 2? What would you like to see in Season 3 and beyond? Let me know all your thoughts and theories in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more. I'm taking a Christmas break tomorrow, Monday, which is December 24th. I won't do any videos then. And I might not do one on December 28th either, but I'll definitely be back on the 31st. But yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.
Suited up, ready, running like a brand new ship. Yeah, running with the speed of a kick. Yeah, going for the goal, no. Yeah, bring up the best of the best and the creme de la creme, man. Put them on the field. Yeah, watch your best get.